Someone asked me a question the other day, and it was about the read more link on summary blocks on Squarespace. And she said, how do I style this to look like a button? And it got me thinking, why isn't this just a native thing that Squarespace offers? I don't know why, but what I do know is how to change it with code. So in this video, we're going to learn how to apply CSS to a summary block in Squarespace to achieve a button look. So you can see where I've actually solved this for the person that asked me about creating this button effect. And you can see we give the examples here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the code that I made and I'm going to paste that into an example site and show you how it works and explain basically what each thing does. So this is just a template site that I'm going to use for all my tutorials going forward. What we're going to do is go into design and then custom CSS. And then you can see I've just got some preloaded stuff in here. But if we create a new line and then paste, you can see that it gives this lovely button effect on our summary blocks. And I think this looks a lot better than the standard read more link that Squarespace has. So what I'm going to do is I'll move me out the way and then I'll talk you through basically what each line does. So here we're targeting the summary block, and then we're targeting summary items and then summary read more link. So essentially we're going 1, 2, 3. Then what we're doing is adding a border first. So if I was to take off this border, you can see it doesn't have one. Put it back. Then padding, we can adjust this to, it gives us basically the size of our button. I like 10, I think that looks best. But you can adjust this to whatever you want. The width is going to be the width from here to here. So read more link essentially covers the whole of the bottom of the summary item. So if I was to do 100%, you see that would fill up the whole summary item. And now this still looks good. I think some people would benefit from this. I think if you're going for a certain style, this could work. But I like around 60, maybe 50. Let's try 40. I wonder how that looks. That looks okay too. But I'm going to stick with 60. Then text align. This is how the text is aligned within the button. So if we were to go left, it would obviously go to the far left, and then right, the far right of the button. We want it to be central ideally. Margin top. So this is the margin from the top of the button. So you can see as we increase, it gets more and more. And decrease, you can see again. If we were to have it 0, it would be really close to the text, and I don't like that personally. So we keep it around 30. I think this is a good amount of margin. Now, transition. This is the transition between the non-hover state and the hover state. So I have given this button a hover state down here. We're basically adding the background in and changing the color of the text to white. And if we take out the transition of both of these, you can see it's instant. But if we reinstate them and let's say we do 2 seconds instead of 0.2, you can see it's super slow. So you can fiddle around with this. I always go with 0.2 to 0.3. Then we've got font family. So if you want to change the font of the button, you can actually just put this in here. So again, let's take it out. And that is the standard read more font that I have chosen from Site Styles and Fonts. But if you want to change this to something, just type font family, open up your speech marks and then type in the font. And now as long as that font is in the Adobe font family, which is loaded onto Squarespace, then it will populate for you. You can also do this with custom fonts. We're going to have a video on uploading custom fonts via CSS coming very soon. So stay tuned for that one, and we'll move on to text transform. So this particular person wanted it to be all in caps. So if we were to get rid of these, Bebas new is actually all in caps anyway, I think. So if I just take it out, yeah, it doesn't make any change. But if I take both out, you can see we have the read more in it's capitalized cased. But then if I change it to, let's just take font family out, and then we have text transform uppercase. We can have lowercase as well, which makes everything obviously lowercase. Capitalize, which is what it already was. We can just put this in. Capitalize. That would change it if it wasn't already like that. But for now, we'll just stick with uppercase. That's new. Then we've got our hover effect. So this is essentially telling the site when the user hovers over this specific thing, we want this to happen. So when we hover, we want the background to turn to this color, which is the same color as the border. So you can see that goes. But if the text stayed that same color, so let's just take this out, it would be really hard to read. So what we want to do is we want to change that text to white. So whenever you want to change the color of text, you just do color, colon, and then whatever color you want. Sometimes you may need to add important to it if the effect doesn't show up straight away. But whenever you can, I'd probably just avoid using important. So if you do need to override any other code, you've still got that important in your arsenal. Because what important does is it overrides any code that targets the same element. So we always want to kind of keep that up our sleeve. Then we've got transition again, which is just the transition between the button, non-hover and hover state. Then what we want to do is hit save, make sure our changes have all been saved. And that is how you create a button effect on Squarespace's Summary Blocks Read More link.